Hello, I am so happy you're here and so excited to share with you today's episode. Today's episode was actually inspired by a quote from Tony Robbins that after I heard it in an interview, it helped to transform how I live my everyday life. His quote goes as follows: "Stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being excited of what could go right." This quote helped me. It was one of the things that helped me finally break free from focusing on the negativity so that I could finally give positivity a chance to enter my life. Thanks, Tony. I hope today's episode will show you how it is possible to focus on what can go right in your life. Come on in. It's time to choose happy. Hey, girlfriend. Do you want to connect back to yourself and what you really want for your life? Are you finally done with the limiting stories and fear that stands in your way? Is the negative talk so loud that it sabotages you and lowers your self-confidence? Hi, I'm Marie. For the majority of my life, I lived in negativity that was often labeled as depression. My breakthrough happened when I learned the power of choosing happy. This podcast will give you tangible ways to finally ditch the negativity, improve your self-esteem, and take action for what you really want for your life. No more guilt, no more people-pleasing. Let's do this. We are choosing happy. Hello, how are you? I hope you had a lovely Mother's Day. It was so nice to spend time with my young adult kids. I truly treasure the time that we do have together. Before I go into today's training, I'd like to share with you something special that I felt inspired to do for the month of June. For the month of June, the show will be focusing on the topic of joy and how we can bring more of it into our everyday life. As a bonus for the listeners of the show, I designed a Joyful June monthly calendar that has 30 days of journal prompts that I'm so excited to share with you. Imagine 30 days of doing one thing each day that generates joyful moments. I'm so excited to use this calendar. To receive this monthly calendar downloadable PDF, simply ensure you're on the mailing list, as it will go out to subscribers on the last day of this month, which will be May 31st. To become a subscriber, go to the website choosehappywithmarie.com, choosehappywithmarie.com, and sign up to receive the 5-card Affirmations PDF, and that will get you added to the email list. Now to today's training. So, why is it that some of us tend to focus on what could go wrong in a situation? Well, you can blame it on the negativity bias. We humans have a tendency to give greater emphasis towards possible negative experiences than to positive ones. Even if what could go wrong is insignificant, we'll figure out some way to make it significant. If you want to learn more about how this natural bias towards negativity can affect us, check out episode number 4, titled Why Your Brain Focuses on Negative Things and Tips to Overcome the Negativity Bias. The link will be in the show notes. It's been life-changing for me to recognize that there's this inherent focus towards finding the what could go wrong in situations. And for some of us, it's just more prevalent than others. For today's show, I want you to become aware that you can control whether you focus on what could go wrong versus what could go right in a situation. And yes, it does require more effort to focus on what could go right, especially at first because you're training your brain to change its focus. It's time for us to stop being a slave to our brain's tendency towards negativity. Since I started changing my focus towards what could go right, my life has changed for the better, and I want that for you too. I no longer live my everyday life fearful of what could go wrong. I start each day expecting good things to happen that day. And when you expect good things to happen, good things do start happening, but you need to train yourself to see them. When you're stuck looking for negativity, and that can be in the form of fear or worry, you can't see the good things. You're not wearing the right glasses. Perhaps you've heard of that phrase, rose-colored glasses. The Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary defines it as having optimistic eyes. And that's what I want for you. As of this moment that you're listening to this, I want you to choose to see your everyday life as what could go right versus what could go wrong. So, how can you do this? Today, I'll be sharing with you 3 things that I do daily to focus on what could go right. And I invite you to consider them and give them a try. Number 1, live your everyday life with the expectation that good things will happen. By putting out there positive vibes, you are attracting good things. And you can do this by starting with saying a positive affirmation. Positive affirmations train our brains to see the positive. If you're new to affirmations, I invite you to check out episode number 6 titled, What are Affirmations and Why Positive Affirmations Do Not Always Work. The link will be in the show notes. I remember when I would start my day focusing on the negative of whatever was happening in my life and what could go wrong. Wow, was that ever exhausting? And maybe you're feeling that too. All of that energy that we spend on things with our brain imagining about what could go wrong. And you know what? Most of the time, what I feared didn't happen. Maybe you experienced that too. So why? Why do we do this to ourselves every day? So what I did was I authored an affirmation to address this, to help rewrite my brain's tendency to focus on what could go wrong. I often have this affirmation at my desk to remind me that I always get to choose what vibes I want to put into my day. I get to choose what my brain focuses on, and you get to choose too. You can find this affirmation that I'm referring to in the Choose Happy Affirmation card deck. For those of you who have the deck, it's one of the cards that has an orange daisy flower background. The affirmation goes as follows. Today's decisions matter. What I focus on is what I will manifest. I'll repeat it. Today's decisions matter. What I focus on is what I will manifest. All day long, we are making decisions. Choosing happy is about choosing to focus on what can go right. We get to choose to put out positive vibes. If you're looking to purchase the card deck, you can purchase it on my website, choosehappywithmarie.com. Link is also in the show notes. The second thing that you can do is you can choose to focus on what you can control in your life. I know this can be hard when things in our life are not going right. It's like you go down the spiral of negativity and you just can't see clearly anymore. Negativity won't allow you to see the positive. The negativity bias, it's real. Once you realize this, it's freeing because then you realize it's not you. Well, it is you kind of, the human you. It's a part of you that you can control, but it does require effort. It starts with stopping yourself from focusing on hypothetical things. Our minds are so good at making things up. Don't let your mind take you on a wild goose chase. Choose to stay anchored on what you can control in your life. So what can that look like? Well, let's use an example. Let's say we use a money example. Instead of worrying that you may not have enough money for what could go wrong in your home, for example, things are always breaking and require replacing. That's called living life. It just is. What you can control is starting today, for example, commit to putting aside a small amount of money every pay into a home maintenance fund or bank account. Another idea could be to open a line of credit so that if something does break, especially something of significant cost, it's there if and when you need it, and there's no cost to have it. Only when you start to use it, that's when you start paying interest on the money that you access from it. And then you can pay it down as you can. By doing either of these things, as an example, you don't have to worry or fear that something will break and you don't have the funds to pay for it, because you've put in place something. You've made a decision. You put in place a solution that if and when it's needed, it will be there for you. No more worrying needed. Number 3, you could write a list of things that you're afraid of regarding a situation you're worried about. Now I know this may appear counterproductive, but it actually works. What we do is we let our brain imagine all the things that could go wrong for a situation that we're worried about. Then we take a break, walk away, come back to the list, and review each thing that you wrote down, looking at it as an outsider who's looking at your list. So everything that could go wrong, find what could go right. Oftentimes, our worries are scarier in our head than what could happen in real life. How can you implement today's training? Just as a summary. The first thing, as of today, you could say the positive affirmation that's in the card deck. You can rewind this episode and hear it again, write it down. If you have the card deck, select the card and put it where you will see it throughout the day. You can even carry it in your wallet. It's a nice size. It will act as a reminder to pivot your brain, even if you feel like you just can't pivot it. It will help you start to find the focus to go towards what can go right versus what can go wrong. You can also pick one area in your life that's been worrying you. Identify what you can control of it. Ask yourself, what can I put in place that will help me focus on what could go right? List them, and if actions are needed, get going to put whatever you need to have in place to manifest good things happening versus fearing the negativity of things that could happen. And number 3, if you have a situation that you're worrying about right now, list what could go wrong and then identify what could go right for each element that you listed that could go wrong. See how it's not as bad as what your brain imagined it to be. I hope today's training helped you see that we get to choose whether we see what could go wrong versus what could go right. Yes, our brain's tendency towards negativity, the negativity bias, wants us to focus on the negativity. But we have the control to decide what our brain focuses on. Remember that. I know at times it doesn't feel that way. Some of us have been dealing with so much negativity that we can't see the positive. You can ditch the negativity, and it starts with doing things differently, choosing happy for living your life. Just a quick recap of what I mentioned at the start of the show. For the month of June, the show will be focusing on the topic of joy and how we can bring more of it into our everyday life. And as a bonus for the listeners of the show, I designed a Joyful June monthly calendar that has 30 days of journal prompts that I'm so excited to share with you. Can you just imagine every day doing something joyful, and then you can do a check mark because you can print it out, put it on your fridge, share it with your family. And then every day there's something to trigger a small action that you can take that will bring joy into your life. It's time for us to stop the negativity, to start focusing more on the positivity that can be our life. And bringing in joy, that's a lot of positivity right there. To receive this bonus June monthly calendar, all you need to do is to become an insider of the show. You can do this by going onto the website and signing up for the free affirmation PDF download. This will sign you up for the mailing list, and you also will get the download of the affirmation card PDF of the 5 cards. And if you already downloaded this PDF and you've been receiving the emails, you will automatically receive the monthly calendar, and it's going to be sent out on Wednesday, May 31st, the last day of the month. So you're up and running for June 1st. So the cutoff date to get yourself on the mailing list will be Tuesday, May 30th. So go to the website and get yourself registered. I am so grateful to be advancing on this Choose Happy journey with you. No more negativity. We get to choose. Wishing you a wonderful week, choosing happy. Cheers! I hope today's episode empowered you to choose happy as you live your upcoming week. If it did, consider forwarding it to a friend that may benefit from it as well. If you have 30 seconds, please leave a review for the show on your favorite podcast app. It warms my heart to hear the positive impact the show is making in your life. It takes vulnerability and courage for me to show up here every week. I do this because I feel called to share what I learned with others. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. You can purchase your very own Choose Happy affirmation card deck at www.choosehappywithmarie.com. Take good care and see you next week.